failed to mention at the beginning, I do the immigration law for Catholic Charities in Houston. When I retired out of a parish in North Carolina, I've done it for many years. I donate my services to Catholic Charities doing immigration law. We actually have the largest Catholic Charities immigration office in the country. We have 92 people that work there, so it's always a busy time. Each year in most parishes in the United States, they have what they call a mission co-op Sunday, in which a missionary order comes and talks about their mission work and takes up a second collection. So we're grateful to the bishop in Reno. This is my third trip here. I did, what was the name of that place in Reno? But 2 weeks ago I was in Yerington, and was it St. Teresa in Reno? It was a big parish. At any rate, huh? I think so. So, but at any rate, this is my third trip to Reno, and we're grateful to the bishop for his invitation this year to us, and as I mentioned at the beginning, most gracious for Father Thomas for his warm hospitality. He was very gracious. So our story begins on September 19th, 1846, in a little village called La Salette in southeastern France in the Alps, in the Diocese of Grenoble. And on that day, Our Lady appeared to two children. Melanie, she was 14, and Maximum, he was 11. And they had this custom in this little village. Everybody had a cow, so they couldn't take all their cows up to the pasture. So the kids took turns taking everyone's cow up to the pasture for the day. So this was Maximum and Melanie's turn this day. And they took the cows up there, and they had lunch, and then they fell asleep after lunch. And they woke up, and much to their horror, the cows were gone. They had found greener pastures, but they hadn't gone far. They went over this little hill, and there they were, thank God. But when they turned around where they were having lunch, there was a beautiful lady seated there, and she was weeping in her hands. And she stood up and she said, "Do not be afraid, my children, come near. I have great news to tell you." So she went on to talk about many of the same things that she talked about in her apparitions throughout Europe. People were not going to Mass anymore on Sundays. They were eating meat on Fridays when that was forbidden. They were taking my son's name in vain. There's a great need for people to be reconciled to the church and reconciled back to God. And at the end of the discourse, she said to the children, "Now make this message known to all my people." So the children gathered up the cows, went back to the village, and they started telling their story, first to their parents, and everybody was, but who's going to believe two kids, So, but they kept telling the story the same way, the same words, the same way all the time, to the parish priest, eventually to the bishop. So after 5 years of investigation, the bishop approved the apparition, and he's the one that started the Missionaries of Our Lady of La Salette. So in 1892, two French La Salette priests came first to Canada and then to the United States looking for a diocese to take them in. Things were getting difficult in France. As a matter of fact, in 1901, the government banned all religious orders from France. Jesuits, Franciscans, La Salettes, you name it. They're all gone. And so, and that order was not rescinded until 1943. So the two French fathers came over and they went around, they couldn't find anything in Canada and New Jersey, New York. But finally, the Bishop of Hartford, Connecticut said, "Well, you can come here." So we set up a seminary there and a headquarters and whatnot, and started ordaining priests. And our first mission was in large scale to southeast Louisiana and East Texas. At one time, the entire territory on the Texas side of the Sabine River, from the mouth of the river all the way up to Shreveport, was all Missionaries of La Salette. No more, we don't have that kind of priests anymore, but that was our first mission. But in 1937, we got a challenging mission from the propagation of the faith in Rome to take a new mission in Burma, in the Arakan district. It's the part of Burma, the northwestern part that borders on India. So Father Tom Newman and four of his confreres left New York Harbor in October 1937 and went to take up this difficult mission. It was a hard mission, you know, and you had to walk everywhere in those days, or take canoe, no cars in this part of the country. And Burmese is a difficult language to learn. But they made their way, but after a few years, as you know, they had some unexpected visitors. The Japanese arrived, and the RAF volunteered to take all foreigners out of the country to India. But our priests wanted to stay with the mission. There were 10 of them at the time, and finally in 1942 the Japanese caught up with them and put them all in POW camps for 3 years. One of our priests died in the prison camp. And after the war, they were not in good health, but rather than to go back to the United States, they said, no, we're going to go back to the mission to build up what the Japanese had destroyed. So they started the work again, but in 1966, the military government issued a decree in which they said, any foreigners living here on a visa, you can stay, but if you leave the country, you can't come back in. And we're not issuing any new visas for anybody else to live in Burma. So Bishop Newman, who was now a bishop, was ordained in 1962, and the priests knew that the handwriting was on the wall, that they wouldn't be able to continue forever. So in 1976, they made the difficult decision to abandon the mission. Bishop Newman that year had ordained 5 priests of that diocese, and then 1 La Salette priest, Father Burney. And so they left, and Father Burney went to the missionaries of La Salette in the Philippines. But in 1993, he came back and found that the message of Our Lady of La Salette was still alive and well. And he started recruiting young men for the priesthood. Because of his work, today we have 16 La Salette missionary Burmese priests in Burma and 5 seminarians. So while we can no longer continue to send priests there, we do support the mission financially, the one we started almost 85 years ago. In 2008, we get another interesting challenge hurled at us. The Bishop of Cap-Haitien in northern Haiti invited the missionaries of La Salette to come and run a few parishes there. Well, we didn't have any priests to be able to send, so we teamed up with the missionaries of La Salette in Madagascar, for whom French is their native language, and we said, we'll support the mission financially. So they sent 3 priests, and we support that mission financially. In 2016, we got another rather interesting challenge from the Bishop of Bukaba in northwest Tanzania. And he wanted a religious order that was devoted to Mary to come to his diocese. Not because he needed more priests, he didn't, but he wanted that special charism that a religious community brings that's devoted to Mary. So once again we said, well, we can't send any priests, we don't have any to send, but we'll support the mission financially. So the missionaries of La Salette in India and the Philippines, they sent 2 priests each, and we took up this work in that diocese. And last year we bought a house of formation, and today, next month, we have 5 young men who are beginning their studies for the priesthood with the missionaries of La Salette. So over the years, God has blessed us immensely, originally with lots of priests. Now today we don't have that many, but we still have the financial ability to be able to support the missions that we have. So the second collection today is for the missionaries of Our Lady of La Salette. I thank you in advance for your generosity, and thank you once again for your hospitality. After Mass, I have a few brochures about the apparition, if you want one. And if you, there's still a few left. If you didn't bring anything extra today and you want to give something, I have some envelopes that you can put in the collection next week. And if you write checks out, you write them out to the parish, and the parish sends the money to the diocese, and the diocese sends the money to us. So, so thank you once again.